Well, it's official. Junior hockey is going to look a little different going forward. The NCAA Division One Council held their vote, and they voted in favor of allowing Canadian Hockey League players to be eligible to play in the NCAA, which is huge. For years, the rule has been that once you play a game in the Ontario Hockey League, you lose your eligibility to go to the NCAA. So a lot of those players would then go to the USHL or Tier 2 with the OJHL. Caleb Malhotra, for example, went to the BCHL. So players would find other leagues to play in just to keep their eligibility status. But with this move, it'll come into effect next season. That means players don't need to make a big decision at the age of 15. They can now decide to go into the Canadian Hockey League if they so wish and still maintain their eligibility for the NCAA. So this is a huge change. Of course, this started with the lawsuit that was filed against the NCAA, challenging the rule of banning CHL players who they considered as pros from joining the NCAA route. So, with this, there's of course a lot of questions going forward. How will this impact the Ontario Hockey League, and more importantly, the Canadian Hockey League? Now that players can move on to the NCAA, because once you turn 19, 20, that's about the age when players usually join the NCAA schools. So we usually see a lot of NHL scouts at junior hockey games. Now we'll probably start to see recruiters, and it'll probably start with overage players this year. That's the thought. They can also approach other players to try and gauge interest into whether or not they would join their NCAA program. So there'll be some talent, obviously, going forward that will leave the Ontario Hockey League depending on their situation or if they view education as being something important. So that's going to be an interesting factor. The other note is how is this going to affect the USHL? And we've already been hearing rumors that the Youngstown Phantoms and the Muskegon Lumberjacks have been in contact already with the Ontario Hockey League about potentially moving to join the OHL as expansion teams. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now with the USHL, and with this vote, we're kind of getting that probably some more pressure put on that league. We also learned this past week that two players have already left the USHL, with Hayden Reed going to the Flint Firebirds, and then Montgomery, who's going to London Knights. He was actually waiting for today's vote before making a final commitment in joining the London Knights. So expect a press release soon to announce that Montgomery will be joining the London Knights, and they might not be the last players to be moving to the OHL. We'll have to wait and see, because there's a lot of things in motion right now that this vote has finally been decided earlier this afternoon. This is going to have a lot of ramifications on OHL teams, because there's going to be more pressure now to update your program to make sure players end up staying for their overage season. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. One other thing we just learned is that the QMJHL openly talking about expansion because of this vote. And they said that if it was going to be a yes vote, they're going to start looking to add at least two teams in the United States. And they haven't had a team in the United States since the Lewiston Maniacs. And you'll remember the Maniacs, they actually won the Q back in 2007. They appeared in the Memorial Cup when it was hosted in Vancouver. So they haven't had a presence in the United States yet. And when you do have a team in that state, that gives you priority for those players to join your league. So, for example, the OHL teams in Michigan and Pennsylvania means those players enter the OHL draft. And if they put a team in New York State or Ohio, like the Youngstown Phantoms, then that would give them a claim on that state. So a lot of things are in play, but the bottom line is the NCAA Council has voted in favor of allowing CHL players to join. And it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out. And then you also have to remember, we haven't talked about it too much, about how the AHL eligibility might also be changing with the next NHL CBA, which would allow 19-year-olds to go into the American Hockey League. That's the talk. That has not yet been confirmed, but there's a lot of shifting right now when it comes to junior hockey. It's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out. I think where we start is the fact that players can now play in the OHL at the age of 15 instead of having to make that big decision about whether or not they want to keep their university eligibility or not at such a young age. So now they can play. They're going to have more decisions to make as they play in their career. But bottom line is, we're not putting so much pressure on 15-year-olds when it comes to their future in hockey. So we're still going. There's going to be plenty of questions left unanswered, and of course, we'll figure this out as we go along. But I wanted to do this video just to talk about the big decision. We've been talking about this for the last few weeks about this vote, and here it is. We have our answer. CHL players will be allowed to join the NCAA after they're done their careers in the OHL. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the votes. How do you anticipate this change impacting junior hockey? Love to see the interactions. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.